Join us by the fireside for our evening tales of true life's strange experiences with things that lie beyond the veil of the known and into the misty depths of the mysterious and unknown. The residential property. There's probably a reasonable explanation for everything that went on, but it freaked me out and gave me the heebie-jeebies. I used to work for my father-in-law, and he ran his business out of a residential property. And he threw a few desks, chairs, and computer equipment in so that we could work from there. The house, I think, was built around the 1960s, maybe earlier. It was a big old house, 3 stories with a massive front driver and rear garden. Really dated inside and not looked after, and he had painted the whole house this depressing pale yellow. It was a cold house and made even colder with this pale yellow, and the first time working there on my own, it gave me a creepy vibe. So it started off with me being called out to the house in the middle of the night at least once a week for over a year. It had a phone alarm system, so if it detected any motion in the house, the alarm would go off and the office landline number would call me. You then have to acknowledge there is an intruder by pressing 2, and it stops calling you. I would then have to go check the house out and deactivate the alarm. Going in the middle of the night would freak me out even more. Pulling up to this big old house, no lights on. Boss didn't want lights on as it cost money. In the winter, the heaters used to go off at 2 p.m. and he would say, "Wear a jumper," kind of guy that wanted to save pennies. So I am there looking at pitch black house, seeing if I can see flashlights inside for any intruders, plucking up the courage to go in and turn the alarm off. Luckily, there were never intruders. But what was odd sometimes was I pretty OCD about making sure doors were shut, especially when it became a regular occurrence, me having to go out and deactivate the alarm. But when I used to go back in the house, doors were open. But I was the last to leave. Put it down to a draft getting in, but it did freak me out. I was still living at home with my parents for the first couple of years I worked there, and sometimes if I had been out drinking and the alarm went off, I would have to get my mom to take me, and she used to say it was a spooky-looking house. I then started to have recurring dreams about being in the hallway of the office and seeing a girl dressed in white slowly walking down the stairs from the first floor. I couldn't remember her facial features, but by the time she made it down, I would wake up. Wasn't a particularly scary dream, but with everything that was happening, it was just weird. I remember telling my mom about this, and she had a similar dream about the office with a girl inside. Then it started getting even stranger. I would be working alone late in the office, and the internal phone system used to start calling round the office phones. I would be sitting there at my desk, dark outside. Everything seemed scarier in the winter. And a colleague's phone from downstairs would start calling my phone. I picked up. Nothing there, obviously, as I am the only person in the office. Hang up, a couple of minutes later, same thing. I go downstairs to a dark office and unhook that phone. A few minutes later, someone else's phone starts calling mine, or another phone in the office. I just put it down to an internal phone issue. One winter night, this was happening, and then I start hearing a printing of paper on the top floor, boss's office. This was at the point in his career where he didn't come into the office much, maybe a few times a month. He hadn't been in the office this particular week, but his laptop was always left. For whatever reason, his printer is just printing, spewing out print after print. Phones start ringing, and I'm like, nah, not tonight. I'm not even going to go upstairs to check. Pack my crap up and get out of there. That night, I get a call. Intruder. I'm like, hell, I don't want to go. Also, I had a drink. So this time, Dad takes me. Pull up to a dark house, no lights, get inside and knock the alarm off. Bang all the lights on and tell my dad about the printing going off. So we head up to the 3rd floor, and there's pretty much a full ream of blank paper printed with some sheets that have gone onto the floor. But my boss's laptop was nowhere to be seen. I have no idea why it started printing randomly. I was the only person in the office and wasn't connected to his printer, as I had my own on the desk. All of a sudden, office intruder calls and alarms would stop going off, and I had a good few years with no calls, or maybe a couple throughout the year. The phone calls around the office were still happening, and other people had witnessed this, as it didn't just happen when I was alone. So this all happened from 2011 to 2021. Fast forward to 2019. The father-in-law wants to cash in on all his hard work and sells his business. Business is sold in February 2019, and the new company retains all employees, and we're working out of his office until a suitable replacement can be found. We move out in December 2019. I had not received any intruder alarms for a while. Then I got one February 2020. It was a Friday night around 11 p.m. I'd been out with the wife for a meal and some drinks. We get back and we start getting ready for bed when my phone starts ringing, and it's the office landline, and I'm like, oh great, I've got to go turn the alarm off. I don't answer the call on this occasion as I was in the middle of brushing my teeth. Normally, what happens is you hear a message that says, intruder, intruder, press 2 to acknowledge. It will leave a voice message if you don't answer and will continue to call until you press 2 to acknowledge. For whatever reason, it didn't call me back, but there was voice message. Thought it was a bit odd for not calling back, but no big deal. So I listened to the voice message back and it's just nothing. All I can hear is silent air. No message from the security provider, nothing. Then I hear the phone hung up. Hairs are standing up on my neck at this point, and I'm like, oh hell, again, and I don't want to go. So I call up an Uber because I had been drinking and he comes to pick me up. Usual chit chat, where are you going? And I explain the alarm has gone off at my work and I need to go turn it off. He seemed a bit unnerved about it and was asking a bunch of questions. Why is it going off? I said, I'm unsure, but we'll find out. And then he asked, is there someone else working there? What does it mean if the alarm goes off? I explained no one should be there. It's either a glitch, a bug that has set the alarm off, or someone breaking in. He was like, okay. Anyway, we pulled up. No lights as usual, but what makes it worse is my father-in-law had stopped paying for the property's garden to be maintained, so all the weeds and grass were overgrown and the house looked dilapidated. The Uber driver said the house looked like something from a horror film and said, do you want me to wait for you in case someone is inside? I responded with, hell yes, please. So I wait to see if I see any lights are glowing inside from a flashlight, and there's nothing. What is also strange is the alarm isn't going off. I thought maybe it's been switched to silent because when it did go off, it was loud, and we had gotten complaints from neighbors when it went through that period of going off every week. Anyway, I wade through the weeds and make my way to the front door. I don't see anything through the glass and enter the house. As I open the door, the alarm starts to beep, meaning I need to go and enter the PIN within 20 seconds or so to stop it from going off. So the alarm had not been triggered at all, and that meant the office landline had just randomly called my mobile phone and hung up. There was no sign of anyone there, and no one had been in the office since we had left in December 2019. I shouted out to see if there was anyone there. I didn't really know what to expect. I was crapping myself already and probably would have had a heart attack if someone had called out. I arm the alarm and lock up and go home. When I get home, I check the office CCTV through an app on my phone 30 minutes before the alarm goes off and during, and there is no sign of anything inside or outside. It was so weird. Anyway, since then, I have not had any calls from the office, which is good. My father-in-law put the house up for sale, and it was sold to a building developer who wants to knock it down and build a few housing plots. My wife was dealing with the estate agent and went every now and again to show the developer and the estate agent around. The last time she went, she was with the estate agent to go around, check everything was in line, and to hand the keys over. She called me to say that all the doors were open, and when she went up to the top floor, the hatch to the loft was half open, and there was a big pile of soil below it that looked like it had been trodden in. She had probably been in like a month or so before and gone round the house and said she remembered closing all the doors and there was no mess up on the third floor. What was even stranger, there were 3 rooms on the first floor and each one had a keypad bolt lock on it, meaning that you had to enter a code to gain access to the room. She remembered leaving these open because she didn't know the codes to get in and didn't want to bother me to try and remember. Code was something like C2690 or along those lines. Enough goes. I would get it right. But it was just strange that all these doors were locked. Hell knows what caused all this weird crap. I'm just glad it was sold and I never have to look back there. Dude, that would really scare me. I don't know how you kept going back there, but I wouldn't have gone. My Yorkie dog sees things. This is a few years ago. I had a 1-year-old Yorkie, who we'll call Tom, and where we lived, there was this green space that was a common dog walking path. Leading on from this was a lot of bungalows with a lot of wide paths on roads and clipped grass around them. I later learned that this was an old people assisted care sort of estate, but Tom loved to walk this route. So on this particular day, it's pretty late, high twilight, and we're going down one of these paths, and Tom starts looking at this patch of grass on this side of the road, ears up, but I can't see anything. It looks relatively normal. The grass is a tuft around a meter high, wooden pole on the side of the pavement. I assume he's seen a mouse or something. But as we get closer, he gets tenser and tenser. Eventually, we cross over to the other side, not just because of this, but the other side has better grass and it's the normal route. But he's not feeling better. Even on the other side, he's now walking perfectly to heel. Honestly, a huge red flag. And now he's showing aggression. So anyway, we get nearly parallel with the post and he stops dead and he's in full battle mode. Claws gripping the pavement, teeth out, head low, hackles raised, and an adorable 1-year-old growl. 2 things suddenly hit me. He's not actually looking at the grass. He's looking about 15 centimeters above the pole. And that he's actually afraid. And this shakes me because Tom redefines sociopathic bravery. At this stage, he was already picking fights with Doberman and swans. His current highlights include a bull and, in a different occasion, a badger. However, sociopath or not, he's still a 1-year-old Yorkie and can only keep like one thought in his head at a time. And I want out of here now. So I start jogging on and he's suddenly like, we run, we run, we run, we run, 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 and sets off with me. We get like 25 to 30 meters away and he glances back and suddenly yelps, drops his belly, and shoots forward in Yorkie turbo mode. 2 things flash through my brain. A, I have never heard him afraid before, and B, he didn't look behind and to the left. He looked directly behind us. Mama Angst didn't raise no fool, and I shot forward after Tom. Now he is going flat out. He is, however, still 1 year old, and while big for his breed, he is still smaller than some of my bowel movements, whereas I am both lanky and utterly terrified. So I catch him, scoop him up to my shoulder, and charge. I can feel his claws in my shoulder and his high-pitched growl in my ears as I fly down the street faster than the Redditor will point out their mistake. When I reached the bottom of the road and took the turn, I encountered a bit of difficulty as lanky boys have high gravity and big turning circles. But a helpful, if unlucky, Ford Fiesta door helped keep me on the pavement. 70 meters later, Tom lets up, licks my ear, and I slow. We took the long concrete way back. Tom was fine. I was a wreck. There was one slight aftermath to this. We went that way a bunch more times, even in the dark, and Tom was fine. I wasn't. If Tom looked at a grasshopper wrong, we were gone. But here's the thing. Tom was a popular dog on the dog patch, had a lot of friends who would bounce and play with him. But sometimes at twilight, and once we went there at dawn, he would walk up to the edge of the path with the bungalows and just watch, utterly motionless, silent, barely blinking. And if he did this, all the other dogs would utterly ignore him, wouldn't even look at him, never learned more, and that was it. Wow, that's a really strange experience, but animals are psychic. Animals really do quite often see things that humans don't. So it sounds like your little dog was seeing something that was there. Something maybe dangerous, some kind of ghost or something. I don't know. Creepy.